Hey everybody, I think I'm live now. Something weird
Hey
was
everybody,
happening before.
I think I'm live
Oh,
now.
yeah, there's that echo. Yeah, that's a big yes. Okay, cool. Um, I'm just going to start setting up and just do this. I hope people come and hang out, but if not, I don't blame you. This isn't the most exciting stuff in the world. Also, I'm very quickly going blind, so probably going to need extra lights and glasses this whole time. Whatever. Getting old sucks. Morning, Master Safer. How you doing? All right, let me put this over here for later. So this is the Octopus Fight Stick. Let me get all my screws over here. I almost lost one of these the other day. So let me just put this in my little magnetic screw bin thing. Move my light over. So I, the other day, built one of those Arduino-based lag testers for the Mister. And I want to do it again, which is probably going to make this already slow and boring stream even more slow and boring, because I just want to verify results, and I also want to have two of these laying around. So I guess, hold on, let me just go. That's a little better, so you can actually see what I'm doing. So what I've done so far is, all right, yeah, okay. So the Octopus Fight Stick is very neat and clean on the inside. It's got connectors that you could pull out. So it's not meant to take the whole top off and to move around with, more so than this, which I think is good. It keeps the inside nice and clean. But all I've done is attach two cables to one of these buttons, and that's it. So we should just be able to lag test this using both Mister and game Padlet, which is, I did a live stream on that a while back. So I want to do both. And I also want to do it before and after the firmware update, which TR Fight Stick might not be very happy about that. But I just think, let's just get some numbers, and let's also see what's going on with the firmware. I've had very little use with this, but whatever use I had, it just felt like a really high-end fight stick, which is obviously a compliment. I'm sure somebody's going to try to spin that somewhere else, but it seemed like a very good fight stick with a bunch of awesome options. But if it's laggy, none of that matters. So that's what I'm doing today. Hey, Christopher. Oh, you backed two of these? Awesome. So supposedly the original one is starting to ship right now, and then whoever pre-orders this round, they're gonna get those. They're aiming for by the end of the year. If enough people pre-order, it'll probably be sooner. If they have to wait, it'll be later. But this is a company that's delivered before, so. Hey, Shane. Yes, that's the goal here. I'm going to be annoyingly anal as always with these things so that we can make sure that we get all of the testing we need. So let me grab a Mister. I should probably grab a longer USB cable here. So let me do that too. Maybe a HDMI extension. I keep all these things right next to me so I don't have to mess around too much with it. Believe it or not, I do try and make these streams flow a little bit faster than they usually do, but you know. Alright, Mister's all connected. I'll find that longer USB cable. I have piles of USB cables from that USB hub review I did the other day, so should be no delay in getting this thing done. Alright. So, the, excuse me. So this Arduino, this part plugs into the Mister's snack port, the user port. So I'll plug that in there. And then this Arduino plugs into computer. And that should be most of what we need. And obviously we got to connect that as well. So I'm going to use a very long cable, supposedly a super speed cable, to plug directly, well, Yeah, that should be fine for the Arduino. Connect that to directly to a port on my PC. I don't know if hubs matter at all in this scenario, but I just, like, who cares? Why would we risk that? Let's just plug it in and get it working right. So USB-C into the Arduino. And I think if I remember correctly, yeah, let me plug this in here. All right, I got to connect the stick. And this is pre-firmware update, just to be clear. Hey, Rent. So I don't have the ability to test this over Snack because they didn't send a Neo Geo cable with it, and I don't have a Neo Geo Snack adapter, nor do I know if one exists, to be honest with you. So we will have to figure that out a different time because there's going to be as long as this performs well, there's definitely going to be a follow-up stream where I test all of the console cables because right now I just have PC and Dreamcast, and I'm going to try to do Dreamcast too, but let's see how this stream goes because I don't want this to be like a 9-hour stream of me screwing around if I'm making mistakes or anything like that. But if things flow all right, then yes, I'm going to do Dreamcast as well, both to show off the built-in VMU as well as to, can you see that even in the shot? So many lights in here. I'll get to that eventually, but yeah, you could sort of see it. Okay. So let me, that is not what I'm looking for here. Let me re-add this. And if the stream crashes, just stick with me. It'll, I will fix it. All right, so we got Mister up here. We're going to enter NES lag tester. And since the camera's not up on screen and we're just waiting, wait, is this not booting? The heck? Well, that's weird. Let me reboot it. I also just completely reformatted my Mister because I wanted to make sure there was nothing about the whatever weird stuff I had done to it, because I'm always experimenting with my Mister. So I just wanted to make sure that wasn't going to skew the results at all. So I've done that as well. Let me just try. Let me try booting to the NES core just to make sure that that's not going to be a weird issue here. No, that works. So let me try the lag testing core again. And if not, that doesn't work, I'll just grab a different Mister. Wow, weird. Anybody know why that's not working? That's never not worked before. Huh. In fact, it was just working the other day when I was setting this up to verify that it was going to work at all. That's hysterical. Hey, what's up, Beast? Shane, apparently. Apparently not the smartest idea. All right, well, let me just try and re-download that file and go from there. Should be fairly quick and easy. Yeah, it's the same NES lag tester RBF file I've always used, and it's in the right spot. And this was just working the other day. Let me grab my other Mister and try it, because that's going to be. I wonder if there was like a Linux update that caused this. All right, let me unplug all of this stuff. Let's see if the file's on here. I think that'll be a good thing to test if it's already on here. If not, I can move that over. No, that's not on here at all. Okay, well, let's try two things then. Let me try putting the other micro SD in this, and then if not, I could just try adding it. That's so funny. I thought for sure this stream was going to not have any weird issues until I started getting into the lag testing. All right, let's boot this one. Ability. All right, that's weird. The only other thing I should probably just double check is to make sure that there's nothing weird on the video side in the Mr. INI file, because it's a brand new one. By like video mode, yeah, that could be. So let me just set video mode to 8, standard 1080p. Try that one more time. Not, I will move on. That is very, very funny. Okay, so I'll put back the other SD card, add that lag tester, and go from there. I guess we should also make sure fast USB polling is on this card, but one step at a time. Ray Cerrone, those are the Ronnie Snice backgrounds. They're free. You just gotta enable them and update all, and that's all you gotta do. All right, so luckily, I was smart enough to at least back up my old Mister folder. So let me grab that and double check. Maybe I didn't. What a moron. Okay, well. I'm going to drop a link in the description so y'all can tell me if I'm in the wrong spot here. The video back, everybody? Should be, right? It was just when I was it dropped out from Mister, correct? Maybe I downloaded the file wrong. I don't know. I'm open to any ideas at all. The file size just changed pretty drastically, so that could very well have been the difference, but let's try it out. Well, heck, that's awesome. I like stupid mistakes. Stupid mistakes are very easy to fix. I would hope that this is it. All right, let's try this again. Powering it on. Switch over to this view. Ah, yay. Okay. Awesome. I love it. So all I'm going to do is define the buttons on the stick. Enter, and then I'm going to save. That should be all I need to do. Well, that's good. That is very good. All right, so let me double check here. This should be plugged into the user I/O port. Everything's configured, everything's in, and now I'm going to, I'll just share my desktop so you can see this. All right, and I think we do putty. Lag testing. And I think we need to figure out what the COM port is before we do anything else. So that opened. COM 10. We're going to just change that to 10. Thank you, Pollo Loco. Much appreciated. All right. Play. So this happens to me all the time when I do the Mr. Lag testing stuff. And sometimes I have to plug things in a certain order. Other times it just works. I don't know if I'm doing anything wrong. So if anybody has any tips on that, please just let me know, because I would love to learn how to get better at this. And that's why I think maybe I should build another one after this stream or something. Plug user port. Okay. Ignore those. Whenever you see stuff spit out like that, those are erroneous. There's no such thing as 0.01 lag, and this definitely doesn't have 20 milliseconds of lag, that's for sure. Plug that. Okay. I just unplugged and replugged the USB port. So we're going to let this thing run for, let's say, 2,000 times. And while we do that, I'm also going to load up wherever I have my Office software stashed away. And I'm also going to notes. Desktop. Okay. Hey, Mark. Thanks for swinging by. Yeah, our guitar's looking at this, trying to work out how to make this into a guitar solo. Okay, I'm going to hit, I'm just going to close this. Now I got, oh yeah, that's right. Where did the log go for that? Oh, right on the desktop. Ha, I'm doing my job right. Okay. The log is saved right here on the screen. So what I'm going to do is open the file here. And then you need a comma, because there's two things. I don't know if you need a semicolon. Let me try just a comma and see what happens. That's weird. All right, hold on. Okay, so let me just delete this. That, save it. I'll try opening it again. All right. No, huh? Y'all see what I just did? What a dork. Not the NES lag tester, RBF. Putty log. What the hell's wrong with me? All right. So you see how over here, this column is just the number of how many results there are, which is pointless for us here. And this is it. So you have it separated by a comma, so they each go into their own columns. But we don't need this one at all, so I'm just going to delete the column. And this one right here, we're going to need to sort it. And we should just delete all of the ones that don't make sense. So 0.01, that's not a thing. And we're going to do multiple tests, by the way. So also, we'll sort it the other way. Yeah, there's no chance these are 10 milliseconds, 29. And if there are, we'll actually, let me even just do this just for now. We're going to do multiple tests, so don't worry, this isn't skewing results. Just remember that when we had that before, that was the issue. So roll down now. And we're just going to do an average. I always forget where the average button is. Right here. Yeah, average. So first test, 2.675 milliseconds of average latency. And this is on the original firmware, and that's first test. So let's just do this again and see what we got. So I'm going to open up Putty again. We could close the log because we don't need it anymore. We'll just delete that. All right, I'll close this too. All right. Testing load, that was COM10. Let's see if it just works or if I have to plug it in again. Nope, all right. So let's just give this another, 2,000 tries. Hey, Alex, how's it going? Sega, I would love to test the Genesis functionality. However, I don't have the cable for that. So I just, unfortunately, today I'm definitely testing USB pre and post firmware update. And I'm also going to be testing Dreamcast, assuming I can get everything working. But that's it for today. I need them to send me all the other updated cables to do that. All right, I'm going to give it like 500 more because we started at about 2,500. Okay. Now I will open this back up again. Open file, Putty. I don't know why it's doing that. I think I gotta close and open LibreOffice every time. I had switched over to a different office, and I don't know why. I forgot what it was called, so I can't pull it up. But it was better than LibreOffice. Calc. Okay. Open. Putty. Remember, we need the comma. We can just delete this entire column. One. So these two are the first ones in there, so they could always be skewed. However, I see another one right here. So let's just sort this. Oh, okay. So the lowest registered input latency is 0.68. And we're going to go highest is 4.7. Let's go get that average again. Over. $2.688. Okay, great. So that, if this is true, this is just a win, period. But we're not done. This is me. I got OCD. I can't just do that. So we're going to plug this in to the computer and update it. Try to get a long cable for this. Actually, I think I'm going to use, because I'm going to steal the Arduino cable to do that, because we don't need that running while we update. All right, so that's connected. Thank you, Windows 11, for being consistently less useful than all the other ones. Okay, so this just works. I've unplugged it from the Mister, so I won't, no buttons will be pressed down on that. In fact, let me just turn the Mister off, just safe. All right, I'm gonna go into offline updater. Press PS and share select at the time while pressing connect USB PC. Should help them out with some of these. All right, so I'm gonna switch over to this other view so we could look at me fumble with this together. Hey, TR Fight Stick, hello, hello. I think step 2, you mean while connecting the USB cable to the PC, right? All right, so press PS and share select. So we're gonna go, what's PS? That's select. Neo, excellent question. TR Fight Sticks here. So do they offer update tools for Mac users at the moment? Here. Power that off. I flipped this switch in the up position. I flipped this in the up position. And let me hold down select while plugging it in. Oh, cool. Mac software's coming at some point. That didn't seem to do anything, though. Status, okay, let me flip these switches just to see here. That's not affecting its status to the computer. That's still there. So, all right, TR Fight Stick, what am I doing wrong here? Those top buttons, Neo, are pads, which, and this is just my opinion, but I think that's totally fine because you're not going to be mashing these during a game. You're going to be hitting these. But those are just like squishy buttons, not capacitive touch, which is good because those drive me crazy. Yeah, nothing's happening. I'll tell you what, Alex, how about you make anything usable on Linux without a command line and we'll, no, I'm kidding, I'm kidding, I'm kidding, I'm kidding. The only reason I haven't switched is because I physically can't. Like, I can't have the tools that I need to do my job. And when I run a VM of Windows, like if I were to rebuild my Unraid server with a brand new motherboard and run Linux, it would work. But when I switched over to Windows to do what I would want, I would need to pass through hardware, which is very finicky and definitely not reliable, at least for the equipment that I personally use. So, all right. Let me flip this to the different position, hold down select, and see what happens. Yeah, so this isn't working at all. Let me close and reopen then. Step one, press those two. I have those two switches. I tried in both positions. I guess let me try one more time. Yeah, nothing. Hmm. So if you could see this, right now it's connected. Is it connected? All right, let me unplug and unplug and replug then. Try. Okay, so now it's working, right? Okay, so I think right now I think it's in player one mode. Now I have it off, but it still seems to be working. I'll set it in two-player mode, and I'll unplug and replug. I'll pick this up and show it to you all in a second so you can see what I'm talking about. I mean, it's definitely still being connected. While pressing, please press PS and share select at the same time. So, hey, Lewis. Look, I'm not being funny here. You all say it says press PS and share select at the same time. So the select, there is no PS. Let me show you on the back what it looks like. And listen, allergies are kicking in hard. I'm not myself. So if I'm making really stupid mistakes, that's totally fine. Feel free to make fun of me, but uh-oh, what fell in here? Hold on. Looks like two nuts. That's weird. I don't know where those would have come from, but okay. So let me show you all the top of this. Switch to manual focus mode for a second just so we could all see it. Sorry if the camera's a little shaky. All right, so those are the buttons in the back right here. This is the one on the far side. And I'm assuming that's what player one, player two, and I don't know what the middle setting would be. I don't know what this one does because it does seem to work with both. And there are no more buttons. The only other things in the back are the inputs like that. Outputs, sorry, outputs. Back to auto. Let me check the chat and see. Bob's dropping his nuts. Are they D's nuts? That's funny. I have no idea where they came from. I don't know if they're from the inside of the stick or if I was working on another project and they fell in there. That's weird because these are threaded right here. So the screws that go through, it's not like they go through and into the other side to that. They're threaded right into the metal. So there's no need for the nuts for those. So yeah, that's weird. I don't know where that came from. Home plus select. Okay, well, let's try this again. We're going to press home and select at the same time. Well, and it's going to set to player 2. Okay, that was it. So you guys are going to absolutely need to update that. So I'm not insane. That said share select, not home and select, and there's no picture of the back. So while I'm nitpicking, this is the type of stuff that I like helping with because while I'm a giant nerd, I'm also not that bright sometimes. So if I run into the problem, other people can too. So what you should do right here where it says step 1, you should have a second picture, like right here, that highlights where those switches should be, show that position. And same here, you should have a picture of the top and you should make sure to change that text to home select. So I'm going to just hit start. Okay, the firmware has been successfully updated. Cool. So would you be able to, TR Fight Stick, could you explain to us what the switches on the back do and make sure that I'm getting this right? Because I wanna get people all the correct info. So let me put it back to the view one more time, and then I'll start, I'll let you do the explaining in the chat, which I'll chime in later. So this one that's closest to the middle looks like a typical on-off switch. And then this one is a 3-position switch. I'm going to leave it in position 1, it looks like, and I'll leave that in position 1, and I will continue the lag tests. And we can go from there. So also, all right, plug this into the Mister. Since we already set the controller up and saved the NES lag tester core, I think I could plug this in last, which I think would make this whole thing flow a little bit better. But we'll see as soon as I boot Mister if I'm correct on that one. Okay, switch over to this side of, oh wait, no, wrong one. Hey, Em, if you're going to come in here and be a dick, just leave. I'm just going to kick you right out. If you don't understand what we're looking at, don't mock it. Got a second to boot. Okay, that's booting. Let's go back to display capture and go to PuTTY. Load. That was COM10. And then we should just be able to plug it in, and then it should just start doing its thing. Yeah, let me delete that log to make sure. Or maybe I have to reset up the controller after a firmware update. I don't know. We'll check this again here and see. I just unplugged and replugged. If you're just logging in, the heck, if you're just joining the stream, then what you're seeing here is not correct lag test readings. These are just me getting the system set back up, and you'll see the real readings once it starts scrolling pretty fast down the screen. All right, so I'm going to get out of this and go back into Mister. check some stuff. So is this still? No, I think I have to. I think the problem was I needed to remap it in the core once the new firmware was done, which is totally fine with me. I'm just trying to call out my mistakes. Let me unplug it from that part while we do this too. See, when you have the Arduino plugged in, it's trying to trigger button presses, which is why you got to kind of be careful when you're setting this stuff up. Let's try. Yeah, I'm going to reboot this thing just for the hell of it. I should normally open the bottom first, then I'll see those nuts on the PCB, then I'll have to remove them first, then I remove the top layers. Weird. Huh. That's exactly what I did. I just removed the tool plate. Interesting. Okay, I'll mess with that later. NES lag tester. We are no longer registering a left press. So I have the switches in back set to, well, let me turn this off. Actually, you know what I just realized is when I flipped the switches on the back, it put the controller in a different mode. So it wasn't the firmware update that's causing this to do it. It was me switching things around. Yeah, okay. So now that I have everything back to the way it was, okay, that does make sense. Let's try this again and see what happens. Because when you flip those switches for player 1, player 2, and please, TR, correct me if I'm wrong here, but I'm assuming that the reason for that would be that if you have two of the same sticks plugged into the same PC, it's not going to register as the same device. That way you'd be able to have multiple connected. But if you do that, then it's going to register as a different device, which makes perfect sense to me. Okay, and as you can see, here we go. So, TR, then if you have time to DM me on Discord, not here because YouTube deletes the links, to the link to the quick start guide, I could add that to the chat for people to follow around because I want to make sure that we get all this info. And I don't remember if there was a quick start guide in the box. The box is in the other room at the moment, so I could dig that out. But I think things like this. Wait, there was a quick start guide, and I took a picture of it specifically. So hold on, let me see. Okay. Let me add the image directly to this, and we'll just let the lag test go. It's not going to hurt. More data isn't going to hurt anything, that's for sure. Giant ass picture. Neo, yeah, it probably does. Let's see. Okay, so here's the tournament lock switch. Deactivates start select home buttons to avoid disqualification. So we can turn that off at all times for what we're going to do, and it is in the off position. Gotcha. And then stick mode, left stick, right stick, D-pad. So it actually should be in the center position, as which it is. Is it right now? Yeah. Oh, I just flipped the switch. I may have caused an erroneous reading here when I did that. So that's what we want it to do then. That's okay. That's awesome. That's really good. And that also would explain why we didn't get a left press on there. That is excellent. RTFM, everybody. I'm just going to close this out. And I will get up another one of this. Okay, that. I'm going to sort. So if you all remember, when I flipped that switch, I said there was going to be erroneous readings. So I'm going to, yeah, you know what? I'll do this two different ways. You know what? I shouldn't have flipped that switch. Let me delete this and just do it over. I don't want any misinformation out there. Sorry if this is boring and we're going to deal with this again, but I just think taking an extra 2 minutes to do this is the better thing to do here. The first test is one thing, but this test is another. So, all right, so we're at 54. So let's go to 7,400. So we got 2,000. Thanks, Shane. At least I'm not coughing into the mic this time. I also, after verifying this, I want to try it on a different Mister. I want to try it using game Padlet, which is going to be higher because then you have the Windows latency in there. Just to like, the more data, the better. So, yeah, Shane, when I get a cough that turns into like a cough, it's months. Like I'm completely healed and totally better, except still coughing for a while after that. So I feel your pain, buddy. Do this again. Open. That's empty. So that. Okay, 0.67 is still the lowest. Oh, new firmware. I think it was 1.03, but I don't want to make that mistake. 0.67 lowest. Wow, latency spiked a little bit here. That's interesting after the firmware update. 9.42 highest, so that wasn't erroneous. That's why I like to be really careful about this. We'll just go to an average. 2.739. All right, so it's still less than 3 milliseconds latency for a stick that does a ton of stuff. I'm calling this awesome. I can't imagine a scenario in which that would be a problem, but we're going to keep testing a couple more times because I don't want to get this wrong. Beast, you're in the chat. What do you think, man? 2.7 milliseconds of latency, to me, a non-pro gamer, when you're talking about strictly controller latency, not anything display, like let's pretend we're gaming on a CRT, I would call that 0. I cannot imagine a scenario in which reaction time or special moves would be affected by anything less or anything. Yeah, anything less than 6 milliseconds. So, okay. So let me switch over to a different Mister just for the hell of it. I can't imagine that anything would be skewed in these results at all. Like, I would be blown away if they were wildly different using a different I/O port with the same exact SD card. But that's our job. Repeat the same test a bunch of times, answer everybody's question. Nerds should be happy to do that. Okay. Oh, I'll get to Mister. Don't worry. Capture device. Oh, I forgot to move my keyboard over. Hold on a second. All right, so that's working. So let's just try loading up Putty and seeing what happens. And I'm going, oh, right. Okay, so we have, controller's not even plugged in, so we can ignore those 2 4s, but that lines up with what we see anyway, so I'm not so worried. Now we're connecting the controller. All right, so wait, then it just stopped? Something's weird here. Let me cancel that, and we'll go back in and retest in Mister. All right, so I'm going to unplug this. Let's make sure. Okay, that's all absolutely working. So okay, so that part's working. I'll go back over. See. And all right, so I'm trying to remember the best order to do all this stuff in. So. Yeah, Ronnie's wallpapers really kick ass. Okay. Testing. And that should just kick in. Why it's not. Maybe there's a problem with the snack port on this one. I'm unplugging and replugging, so you're going to see some erroneous things. Wow, that's weird. Okay, so one of these prototype Misters doesn't register the same as the other. Well, good to know. The downside of using prototypes for everything. Plug the other one back in and see what we got. So this time I'm just going to try it with the Arduino unplugged until the very, very end. User I/O port. Fire that sucker up. Up. we'll have Putty ready to go, but I'm not going to even load that until we're booted and plugged in. Here. Oh yeah, I gotta move my thing over again. Flag tester. Okay, going back to display capture. I'm going to plug in the Arduino right now. All right, plugged in. I hit open. Yeah, this is why this stuff's such a giant pain in the ass. This is what was just working a minute ago on the same exact Mister setup and everything else. Let's try unplugging it from the Mister and then plugging that back in. That's very funny. So this thing's being weird again. All right, well, let's try. I'm just unplugging and plugging stuff in now, which is why you're getting weird readings like that. Let me just close it and go back to the other. Yeah, agreed. Agreed. But also, too, with the retro stuff, we have the ability to test this and to do all this, which you don't really have that ability on newer consoles, other than just controllers and stuff. Backing ability, flag tester. Try defining the buttons again. Right, left, down. Ah, see, something got jumpy. Let's try that again. The Arduino being connected always messes with that. Left, up, A, B, select start, hit, save. Now I could connect lag tester. Now let's see if it's working again. Wipe the file. Wow, that's so funny. So now it's not working. This is not the fight stick, everybody. This is just how finicky a lot of these things are. It's kind of funny. I'm unplugging and replugging, so if you see a bunch of weird crap come up, that's what's happening right now. I wonder if it's a PC thing. Let me unplug and plug it into a different port and get a different COM port. I've absolutely had that happen before with many other things, so maybe it'll be like that. I don't even think we enabled fast polling on Mister either, which is something we should have done. One step at a time here. Let's get this running again. Now we're at COM11. Huh. Well, this sucks. I wanted to do quite a few more tests on this to try to verify some things. One of the cables fall out? No, cables are all in here fine. Everything is exactly lined up as it should be. Everything's plugged into the correct port. That's always a possibility with me. Everything seems to be working. I'll just check inside the stick again, make sure those didn't pop out. Nope, those are both good. Oh, that's all it was. Ha! Ha ha ha! Ah! All right, when in doubt, check the cables. I'm sure I've told the story a million times, but when I was 19, I got a job working at Brinks Home Security at their corporate office. And I was working under like a 70-year-old IT manager who was so grumpy that in the 90s, they sent him to anger management. Now, it's understandable today, but back then, and he always said, any question I had, is it plugged in? David, I'm talking about software. Is the server you're trying to connect to plug in? And that was the first thing he would always say. And that freaking guy was right so often. And he's echoing in time once again. Was it plugged in? No. Cables weren't touching properly. That's funny. Hey, look, it's the voice of Super Mario from Mario 64. How's it going, Stika? All right, let's check these results, and then we'll go back in and check some other stuff too. It's a me, Stika. Delete these two. 0.68. Okay, so that had to have been right when I first plugged it in, because we've never seen readings that high. So I think it's only fair to delete those. Because the only time we saw readings like that was when I was unplugging and plugging things in. So bottom. Average 2.69. Giggity. All right, so let's try a couple of things. All right, so I'm going to unplug this, unplug the Arduino. I'm going to reboot Mister. I'm going to double and triple check fast user USB is enabled, which it should be, but on. Okay, back to display capture. I open up Putty. It was COM11 this time. And I'm plugging in the Arduino now. I'm going to hit open. All right, and now I will wiggle the cables. We learned that last time. And in wiggling the cables, I pulled one of them out, because of course I did. God damn it. When you do this, it is much better if you solder it on, but that is, I didn't want to do that for this because I didn't want to hurt the fight stick because this thing's beautiful and I want other people to get their hands on it. Let me switch over to this view so you can watch me fumble with it like an ass. Why not? All right. I have to pull this connector out slowly and carefully. I'm take the ground wire and slide it right into that pin. I guess I should take the bottom off then, huh? Because if that's what they were saying I should be doing. Well, you know what? Why don't we do that? So I'm going to unplug it. I'm going to grab my fluffy little pad here. I want to screw this thing back in and I'm going to access it from the bottom to try to get better access to those pins. And we'll see how that works. Neo, you know what? Let me drop a link to exactly what that is, just to make it easier. I'll talk through it too, but like we're almost there. Here we go. This is exactly what it's doing. Since I'm over here, I'm gonna close out a putty because I don't want to do anything weird. Okay. So note that there's 4 screws on top and 3 on the bottom. When I dropped the screws the other day, I was freaking out because I just looked and saw 4 on top and thought I was missing one. And I looked again and went, oh, good. That would have been very embarrassing. Notice I'm letting go of the power right before it gets tight, just so I don't over tighten it. I don't want to crack the beautiful black stick. Okay. Flip this sucker over. We'll open it up from the bottom, like I guess I was supposed to in the first place. That's not quite high enough to brace from that. So let me grab another couple of things to put underneath. Good, that's good. All right, I'm gonna open it up from the bottom. Ah, slipped. Okay, well look at that. So much easier to access. And the nuts, I think, are for this. These two, right? I didn't undo those. Weird. Oh, wait, I understand now. Hold on. I'm sorry. Look, for anybody watching, when I get allergies, it's basically like I'm high in a bad way, not a good way. So if I'm talking super crazy today, please just treat it like I ripped a bong hit before doing this. I didn't. I don't like to do that while working, but yeah, that's kind of where my head is at. So these two screws, just these two, or the two nuts, go connect the top plate through this board as well. That's it, just those two. So that's why that's there. That makes so much sense. That is very easy to visualize. I just, until I saw it with my own eyes, it didn't make any sense whatsoever. This is actually pretty cool then. There's a switch that switches it between the fight stick mode and the crack and spinner mode. You can see though really, I mean, this is like beast OCD levels of wiring right here. Clearly, dude, I mean that as a compliment, but this is nice. This came out really good. Everything's got connectors. And what I'm going to do is pull these two off again. Or mostly off, just so I can get... Okay. Get these cables back in. And I still don't want to solder to it unless I really have to. So I'm going to put red right through. Way easier to access this way. All right. Nice and snug. This one through as well. And if you'll notice, I'm feeding the wires in the opposite direction of each other just so that they won't stick through and cause a short to each other. Okay. Here. All right, both are snug. Let me flip this sucker over and we're going to try this again. That's funny. All right, that of the nut situation was funny. Everything else kind of makes sense now. Wait, don't remove. There's a small lock click for the terminals. Uh-oh. Uh-oh, what did I do? Well, everything seems fine, so if I screwed something up, I apologize, TR. But let's go back, video capture device. So the NES core is still loaded. I'm going to plug the controller in. Booting. Pull up the menu. It's still working, so that's good. So now I'm going to switch back over here, load putty. Delete the other log. That out. From 11. Oh, dork. Hold on. All right, plugging in the Arduino. Here we go. All right, now I'm talking. Now we're talking. Shane, I would have to enlist Ron for that one. Handlebar Gamer. I suck at Punch Out. So on the small terminals for the buttons, I'll see some small lock mechanism to remove them from the buttons. You mean I shouldn't have just, grabbed it with my bare claws and tore it off? Sorry about that, TR. Right. These just to get it ready. We're at 2000 now, so I'm going to close that out. I'm going to open it right up here. And remember, the only difference here was I enabled fast USB polling. It was a long time since the last stream or the last test because of me dicking around. But all right, so 068 lowest again, cool. Try highest, 4.73 highest. Okay, and let's do the average. 2.69. So what we've learned here is that enabling fast USB polling dropped any of the potential highest marks, but it didn't really affect the overall latency because it only was 8 milliseconds lag 5-6 times over 2,000 inputs. So I think we're good here. I want to do one more test with the other Mister again, just for my own sanity. And then we're going to move on to the game Padlet testing, and hopefully, if I have time, Dreamcast controller testing. All right, let me close out of here. That. Yeah, that's great. All right, well, all right, let's flip this back over and see what we got. You know what's funny is the last time I tested with this prototype, the same thing happened. It just wouldn't work. And it was a completely different, not at all related to the prototype error. So this just luck, I guess. All right, plug that in here, that in here. Power that sucker on. Right. Ability, any flag tester. All right, that's still working. I'm moving this with the fight stick, so I'll close out of here. 11, plugging in the Arduino USB now. And hey, look, it's just working like it's supposed to. What a shock. All right. I'll let that run, and while that's running, I'm going to see if I can grab the game Padlet tester and go from there. I actually forgot how to use Game Padlet. The last time I did was the live stream I did with you all. So I'll have to look that up in a second. All right, we're over 2,000. Stop it. Open it here. Only deleting the ones that say delay, which is just that. So 0.68 lowest again. 4.7 highest. 2.67 average. So 2.6 milliseconds of average latency for this controller. I just think that's great. I don't have a single problem or issue with that at all. I think that's really all you could ask for something this functional. Got so much stuff in it. Let me just double check. The other one. Okay. That works. Copy that over here. Now, buddy log. So, streamlined. Oh shit, I don't remember how to do this. Oh, I gotta go to Discord to download it. Son of a bitch. Or did I just click the wrong thing? No, okay. Add latency tester. Oh, we updated it. Cool. Okay. Hey, thanks so much, Rent. I really appreciate it. All right, so I am going to switch back over to the other view. I think all I'm going to need to do at this point then is switch the testing pins over, which I was going to have to do anyway, because if I'm going to test Dreamcast and go from there. So there's lock clips to release them. You just squeeze. Well, all right, so this is the Mister tester, which I could power off now. For now. Just for now. And let me get the... I'm going to try to look for the lock clips. I'm going freaking blind, though, so let me see if I could put glasses on. Might have to get, like, my super zoom glasses here. Yeah, I'm not really seeing them. Not really seeing it at all. But whatever, they come off, so... here's the game Padlet one. Thanks, TR. Okay. I don't remember which one was power and ground for the game Padlet tester, so we'll just find that out the hard way. Gotta get that rubber cover back over. Gentle, try not to mess it up. Okay. I'm going to connect directly to my PC. Actually, I'm going to do it this way. Right, TR, black is ground on yours, but not on the game Padlet. That's the one I was looking at. So, button latency test. Okay. Okay, I guess I gotta swap them. Sorry, I got a weird text just now. It was kind of rude to the chat. My bad. All right, let's swap the contacts and see what happens. And actually, I think I should close out of Game Padlet when I do this, just because I'm gonna have to push the buttons down, yada yada yada. So take this out, unplug this, swap in the contacts. Now, for anybody who's unaware of what I'm about to do, it is. Hold on, I think this is a video on how to do that. It's going to be a lot more latency, and that is not the latency of the stick. We're going to be looking at Windows latency too. Okay, I just got... Oh, I see it now. All right, I don't know if I'm going to be able to get that on camera, but thank you for sending that over. Here. All right, so I'm going to try do this lock mechanism right there. Be on this side. It's right here. Oh, look at that. Okay. And that lock mechanism was what the rubber pad was caught on, which is why it wasn't going back in too. So that's an easy way to figure that out. All right, I'm gonna get the purple one back in. And we're only gonna do Game Padlet once or twice. I just want to show the different ways of lag testing, but I also want to show how much latency Windows can add if you're not doing something like FGC OS configuration. Nope. I'm gonna try and stand it up too. That way, if I need to wiggle those cables around, I could just do it. I don't know how smart this is, but you know, gotta do what you gotta do. Okay. You all hear a loud crash in the background, you know what happened. Have I ever actually broken anything on stream? I Pretty sure I have, but nothing huge. It was never like a really horrible thing. Okay, cool. I'm going to I always make fun of Smash players with latency, but in all honesty, it's just because some of the loudest trolls come from that community. However, a lot of really intelligent people help out with that. And there's a lot of people that can actually, a lot of pro players that can get their moves down and show you where they don't work when you start dropping under a frame. And around 8 milliseconds is absolutely where it starts to make a difference for pro, like top tier pro level players. Um, but under that, I don't think anybody's ever proven anything under half a frame. All right, so we're seeing an average latency. It's actually really good. An average latency that's barely bigger than the Mister, 2.9 to 2.6. This is really good. I'm surprised because Windows usually adds a ton. That's very good. We'll send that up to the website for them. Cable. Okay, I do want to do one more test, which is kind of selfish, but it was something I was discussing with Ken from What's Ken Making the other day when we were spending hours testing that USB hub. I'll talk about that in the podcast next week, but holy crap, Ken's awesome. So I'm going to plug this now into the USB 3.2 port of that USB hub I just reviewed. And then I'm going to run Game Padlet again twice and see if it affects it at all. Oh, I didn't wait long enough. Go. Can you not see that on stream? I'm sorry, everybody. Here, that's better. I guess while this is running, I should go grab my Dreamcast controller. That's going to be next. I only have one Dreamcast controller, so let's hope this works. Okay, so zero difference, because I bet you if we ran this test a whole bunch of times over and over and over, we're going to get 0.0 something milliseconds difference. That's not an issue. No, I don't want to put that on the website because we already did it. I do want to do one weird test. I'm just so curious about this stuff because somebody was asking me in the Q&As the other day, and a lot of my friends stream on their PCs while they're gaming on PC, and there's always debates on whether that's a good or bad idea. So I am going to watch this crash my computer. So I'm going to run Crystal Disk Mark on, what is that? Okay. I'm going to run it on a drive that's connected to the same USB hub that I'm about to be running this lag testing thing on, and see what happens. Just to see, just because I'm super curious and I just want to see for myself. So this is maxing out the speed of that USB hub right here, maxing it out. And we're still running the test. And I will be right back while this is running. I got to run outside and grab the cable that I have for this. All right, I'm back. Good timing, almost done. So no, there's no difference. While a speed, and that really makes sense. That absolutely makes sense, because the amount of data you're sending between the controller and your computer is so minimal that it should never really affect anything at all. I'm just for posterity gonna save this, but that makes complete sense to me. Okay, no. And Padlet is, let's call it 3 milliseconds. I wonder if they improved their code too, because there was a newer version, but I don't know. I liked them anyway. Back and add that too. All right, test data. We don't need this anymore. All right, so let's jump over, and so far all these tests are going great. No complaints at all. All right, I'm gonna pull this out. So game Padlet did fine. No complaints there. I'm going to set this over here for when we need to reconnect it, but we're going to be working on the Dreamcast controller now. Let me just put this stuff away so I don't forget it. But all right, so here's what we have to do. We have to do a couple of things. First, here is a RAFnet controller adapter that came from Japan. That, by the way, very fast shipping. Very, very fast shipping. I was impressed. Gonna zoom camera, automatically focused. No? All right, I'll switch to manual. Dreamcast controller adapter to USB version 2. RAFnet. This is brand new, opening for the first time here. I bought this just for this test. That's a good question, Neo. Reinhard, absolutely. Basically, so far, the lag test is like 2.6 milliseconds on average via USB, which is excellent. I also have no idea if Raf is Japanese or not. I know he was in Canada for a while, but his product shipped from Japan. So don't know. I don't know anything about Raf actually at all. So no idea. All right. So I think the first thing to do is obviously just to plug this in and make sure it works at all. Connecting this all up. Power on Mister. See what we got. We got to do a baseline test for this, and then we have to use the RAFnet controller to test the other one. So that way we could figure out. All right, I'm just going to use Genesis because why not? Fine, make it 5 buttons. Start. That's all I need for now. No. I'm gonna load a quick game here. Oh, I didn't wait for it? Bitch. I was gonna wait for Wi-Fi to connect. Now it's connected. Here we go. Thank you so much, Reinhardt. Much appreciated. All right, so this controller adapter is working fine. There's, I'm not like glitching anything out, although I don't know why it just registered that as an auto fire. Oh, it must be confusing this with something else, but that has nothing to do with latency. This is just me making sure. Wait, what am I doing here? That's funny. Did you see how when I hit the controller, the auto fire period? All right. So this is why I wanted to run this test. Let's reboot and let's do a couple of things. I wanted to make sure this controller and adapter are working fine before we lag test it, because we need this baseline to be able to do the other lag testing. Oh wait, no, let me test it all. Let me see here. Select part. All we really need, right? Back. All right. Thanks, Will. Much appreciated. All right, let's do this. Those buttons defined again, just in case. all I need here. No. Okay. All right, so what I think was happening was, and this is just a guess, but this RAFnet adapter must use a similar USB protocol to a different controller I'd already used, and it thought I was pressing menu when I hadn't even mapped that button yet. So simply by mapping the Dreamcast controller in the main menu solved it, which I think it's probably a good idea to map controllers in the main menu when you do these lag tests anyway. I just don't, for whatever reason, I didn't think of that before. But this is now performing fine. I'm pressing all the buttons. Nothing's happening. Everything's exactly as it should. So now we solder on these wires. Shane, Sonic confused me since I'm running Sonic right now in MAME. You know what's the weirdest, most unnerving thing is when I was watching my video on the C4, on my C4. So I was like inceptioning it basically. I was seeing the whole thing with the rack, the lights. I was just going like, holy crap, this is weird. All right, so now we have to take this thing apart and solder those two wires to it in order to get a baseline. Actually, you know what I'm going to do first? I'm going to map the buttons in Mister so we don't have to touch the controller afterwards. Go into utility, NES lag tester. Up. It. No. Go to save so we don't have to redo it again. All right. So now this should just work the next time we go in here and do it. So the funny, not so funny part of this is I have been losing my eyesight very quickly. So we're going to see how bad my soldering is now and how many different pairs of glasses I'm going to have to wear in order to get it. We'll find out. Wow, I don't think this controller's ever been opened. Those are some pretty sticky screws in a good way, I guess. Okay. Back is off. I honestly can't remember when the last time I took apart a Dreamcast controller was. Or if I ever did, I don't really know. I think it's just these two screws. Is those required too? I don't know. We'll figure this out together, I guess. If I did take apart a Dreamcast controller, it might have been all the way back in Stanford, so well over a decade ago. Yeah, I think I'm going to have to take these two top ones out too. Okay. There. All right, so now we got to do a couple of things. We have to figure out what is ground and what is signal. It should be super easy. Oh, a travel case, which seems like a pretty cool upgrade too. Yeah, Shane, it's kind of funny. I remember being a kid and my dad was the same age, and at the same time his eyesight started to go, but the only saving grace was that it didn't get terrible by the time he was in his 60s when he died, so it was still like passable at least. All right, so ground is here, and that one is signal. Let's see if there's an easy spot to solder ground to, so I don't have to... Okay, that's pretty easy. And if I could trace this out just out of curiosity. No, it's going to be way harder to do that. So I'm going to... All right. Flux pen. Plus we got to clean this crap up when we're done. All right. I think you could sort of see. Let me... So I am not a pro at soldering, and my eyesight's going, and it's a giant pain to get things set up in a way where you all could see it. So I don't think I'm going to waste everybody's time on the stream spending 20 minutes getting my camera angle right just so you could watch a mediocre solderer try to get this thing done. Obviously, I mean that in a nice way to try to save you time rather than take it up. As much as these live streams do always run very long, I still try to be respectful of your time. All right, so I'm going to add a bit of solder to the top of this wire. Just see if I can get it right over here. Nice, nice, nice. Okay. That's the easy part, though. Here's the tricky part. Let's see if I can get this to stick. Not, we could try some different tricks, but I'd like this to just work if possible. Yeah, and just remember too that unlike most other soldering scenarios, you don't want this to be permanent. You want it to just stick long enough to do this test. So it happens to me all the time, Shane. You know how many times I have finished like a roundup or something, and I could swear that I tried testing the audio, but at the end of it, I play it back and there's no audio, and I freak out and I go, I did it again? Oh crap, what am I gonna do? And then it turns out something like that happened. I'd plug something in or something got weird. It was nothing. Wasn't even a All I have to do is just open the file again and I'm good. So yeah, I feel your pain. Oof, dropped it after your first use. That sucks. Will, I haven't spent too much time with the Octopus Stick, but the time I did spend with it, it just seems like a high-end fight stick, which is obviously a compliment, not anything else. So if you want the extra features it offers, that is where this thing really shines. You know, the different connectivity to different consoles and stuff like that. That's where this thing starts to set itself apart from the rest, and that's where it's really worth the money. And that's why I'm taking the time to go through and do all of this. Oh, wait, did I just do the wrong one? I think I did. I think I did. All right, let me. We need to do button A. What a moron. All right. See, it's a good thing I got my super duper Coke bottle glasses to test that part out because I had looked at the wrong letter. I went to 3 different eye doctors over the course of like a year and a half, and the first 2 were just terrible. I was just like, it's life, suck it up, buddy, nothing you could do. And the last one was legitimately like gave me good advice and had suggestions, and yeah, totally different experience. But the conclusion was the same. This is what getting old is like. Suck it up. Just a little bit of mask scraped away. Gonna add a tiny bit of flux. That is not really sticking. Well, maybe we could try running the test just holding it in place. I think that's worth doing because that's not going to skew the results. It's either going to work or it's not. So let me clean this thing up a little bit. Okay. At least we have ground soldered on, which is a big help. Cthulhu agreed, but you can't really get it all the way over here to clip like that. So back, yes, do this. All right. All right, I have the Arduino plugged in, the user I/O port. Let me get the Dreamcast plugged in. RAFnet adapter. No idea what port the Arduino's in now. I'll have to look that up in a second. Check that out too. Let's see what else we got. All right. I have everything plugged in except the Arduino, which is what we want. Everything's booted. Ability, flag tester. There. Since I plugged it into a different port, we got to see. Oh yeah, gotta plug it in. Yeah. Back to COM11. And nothing should happen because we don't have it connected. So now, I'm going to see if I could do this while seeing the screen at the same time. Okay, I'm just holding it with my finger here. Can't really see the screen, so this is going to be interesting to see how the hell I could know when to stop. But maybe I'll just sing Dawn Patrol. That's only like a 2-minute song. All right, remove. Yep. Test this sucker out and see what we got. So if we see any really erroneous ones, it's going to be from me tapping it with a cable. But there's no erroneous on the bottom side. There's one. Well, we'll redo this. We'll do this a couple of times to make sure that I'm not doing anything badly. Let me just, because we need to know these results, because the difference of these results would be whatever the Octopus added. So Dreamcast controller. 1909 highest. Just keeping notes on all this. Let me go back to average. 6 milliseconds average. All right, we're going to do the test at least one more time, probably two. Exactly, Neo. So we are going to test the Dreamcast original controller using the RAFnet controller adapter, and we're going to do it 3 total times so we could know what to expect for latency. And then we're going to do that again with the Octopus going through the same converter and seeing what the difference is. And whatever the difference is would be the added latency. So, buddy. Okay, and try this again. Actually working quite nicely. Cool. Huh. You guys hear that crash in the background? That was not the Octopus Fight Stick. I have a picture I took in of my balcony in New York City of the skyline at night. And because I have it above my fireplace where the brick is, I don't want to drill into the brick, so I use heavy-duty double-sided tape to keep it up. And every once in a while, it peels off this, peels off the wall, and I got to push it back up. So yeah, that's what that crash was. Okay, stop, and we'll try these results. Okay, so I'm already seeing something erroneous here, but let me just show you. So there's so in our last test results, the highest number we got was 1909. And we have one that's 18.9, but just one. So I think these higher numbers, now that 31, that is absolutely an erroneous one. That has to be a result of me tapping the pad. And since there's only one out of, how many are here? Yeah, one out of 1,400, it is only fair to delete that because it's way more likely that it's going to be something else. Now, that said, if we got 1909 last time and 18.9 this time, maybe that one's still erroneous, but I'm going to leave it because it's not so far off from the 17s we got. And there's not a lot of them, so it won't skew the average. So let's go highest. What was that lowest again? 1.38 lowest. Okay, down. 6.22. All right, closing this. Deleting that putty log, and we're going to do it one last time. And that'll be our baseline. Sorry for over-explaining the deleting thing. I just don't want anybody who's not fully aware of this stuff to think I'm like skewing lag test results or anything. Which, at this point, I'd be skewing lag test results for the RAFnet adapter, but still, that's not what I'm about. Truth is the truth, regardless of how many people it pisses off. Yay, complete silence on a live stream. Always so fun. Sorry. Can't even see the chat to respond to anybody. I'm just over here holding. Right. Off. Oh, Reinhardt, I am such a dick. And I swear a lot, but I care very much about my friends and the truth. So it's I always try to be a good person. But one of my friends, when I first started hanging out with him, he had followed the channel, and he was like, "It's so weird hearing you swear. It's like hearing Mr. Rogers swear." Whatever. All right, 1.54 lowest. 1771 highest, so that confirms that one reading of 30 something was just erroneous. And then this time I did almost 2000. The average is 6.15. Oh, it's 6.154. All right, let's go up. All right. Yeah. I'm gonna take my giant glasses and just inspect the motherboard here. All right, everything's clean. I didn't screw anything up, and I didn't cause a jump when I was adding the or when I was removing that wire. So I'm just gonna straighten this area up and make sure that the Dreamcast controller still works, and then we're gonna jump in and test the Dreamcast adapter for for the TR Fight Stick one. I'm very excited to see how this thing works because I kind of have a guess on what the latency is going to be. And I'm going to say this annoyingly, an annoying amount of times. Don't forget that our baseline now is 6. So anything, it's going to be over 6, but we're looking for the difference between 6 and it. So that's what's the latency is going to be on this. So if anybody jumps in the chat right around that time, make sure to remind them that's what's going on, because it's going to be higher. It's going to be like 8-9 milliseconds at least, I would think. But that's not the total latency. That's only the latency of, or that's the total latency, not the latency of just the stick. All right, that's good. That's good. Let me get this out of here. Cool. I don't know why. And if I still have time at the very, very end, I want to see if I can make 1 or 2 more of those lag testers. And if anybody wants to help out with lag testing, I'd certainly be willing to share those with you. Oops, I get distracted by food. You fucking with me, Shane? You know I'm a fat guy. I love food. I'm always distracted by food. All right. I think this slides up here like that, right? There we go. Slides in there. All right. I'm gonna get 1 or 2 screws in, and then I'll check the chat to see if anybody's seeing me do something wrong here. That had to have been. I didn't do this a lot, so that had to have maybe been the 2nd, 3rd time total I've ever opened a Dreamcast controller. I just never really had a reason to until. Okay. These 2 here. All right, I think that's all correct. Everything seems to be working. Check the chat. No. Great, thanks, Jeffrey. Now I want pepperoni pizza. You know, I had Little Caesars the other day for the first time in years, and it was really good. I mean, it's terrible. It's fast food, but like that considered, I was shocked. Really, really shocked. I remember trying that a long time ago and thinking it was beyond gross and cardboard tasting, and this was not. I feel like the controller cable is backwards. Let me flip that around. I always thought the cable coming out the bottom was Sega's way of just saying, we're different. But I don't think there was ever actually a reason for it or any benefit at all by doing it like that. This screwdriver is always almost perfect for everything that I'm screwing down. The head needed to be slightly less pointy. I always try to be careful because I don't want to strip any of the screw heads, but it's such a handy screwdriver to have around. If I ever make some money, I'm going to give away all my tools and just buy all new ones so I could have everything matching, nice little sets. Have a toolbox, not IKEA boxes to keep all my tools in. That'd be nice. That's the type of FU money that I would do. I would buy decent tools. Right. All right, let's see how badly I screwed this thing up. Let me move the lag tester out of the way too. I don't want that accidentally shorting anything. Do a quick test to see, and then we're on to lag testing the Dreamcast core cable. I mean, that's already a good sign. Damn it, did I not let it boot again? Ugh. Wait for the Wi-Fi. Oh, jeez. Oh, here we go. All right. All right, everything seems to still be working. Buttons all seem to work, including the ones I was soldering stuff to. Don't know about the analog stick though. But you know what? If we have time to test this on a real Dreamcast, we'll do that. So, all right, Mister, we're all set with you. Let that reboot, reconnect. So here is the controller adapter. This is the one that came with the stick. Basic, decent quality. Mr. Dreamcast core. There's been a bunch of work on that, believe it or not, to try and get at least different parts of it working, knowing that even though it can't run on the DE10, it might be able to run in different ways in future systems or something. So I just thought that was kind of cool. All right, so plugging this in for the first time. Now, as I suspected, nothing's happening. I assume that you're going to need to run power with this as well. But I could be wrong. Or maybe it's just the RAFnet adapter not supplying all the power it needs. So I'm going to just use, let me get a longer cable here. Neo, yes, that RJ45 port, that's where everything connects to, except for the Neo Geo and the Genesis. Those connect to the Neo Geo port. Yeah. This is now plugging into a USB port that only supplies power, nothing else. And nope. Okay, we're not getting anything, even with the USB. That's interesting. Weird. All right. Okay, TR, so what are we doing here then? Because yeah, joystick buttons. Yeah, so that's not connected. So just go back to this then. I will unplug from. Well, that was interesting. So I unplugged the power from my computer, and it looks like this thing stayed on. Huh. Okay. Let's see. Nope. So I'm gonna try unplugging it and plugging it back in. Okay. So it could be that the RAFnet adapter isn't providing enough power to do this. Let me grab a real Dreamcast. Cross our fingers. If anybody remembers the last Dreamcast stream I did, this is that absolutely gorgeous case. Let's go into a friend of mine. I got another one to do. I got a future Dreamcast stream coming up that I will be actually using this Fight Stick to play most of the stuff on there. But waiting on one more dev to get back to me before I can make that happen. All right, plugging this into the real Dreamcast, powering it on. Nothing. So let's check that sheet. Press and hold the correct button combo when plugging in the cable. So for Dreamcast, 1 player and 4P, I guess that would be that. So in order to start it, I hold that down and plug this in. plugging in. So, oh, so 1P and 4P. No. Nope. I'll read this again, just to make sure. Plug appropriate cable into your desired console. Then on your Octopus, press and hold the correct button combo shown in the lists while plugging in the cable. So USB cable, RG45 cables right here. For Dreamcast, it's 1P, 4P, and they show this as 1P, 4P. Yeah, I guess punch and kick buttons. So that would be those two. Neo, that's exactly what we're working on right now. Did I do the connector back on the button? No, but it was a different button, but I'm going to put them back now anyway, just to see. Good call. All right. So your sheet says 1P, 4P. Oh, you said 2. I'll try 2 and 4. And this is plugged into a real Dreamcast. Nope, nothing. Not working. Let me just to make sure here, I'm going to power off my Dreamcast. I'm going to plug in this controller, and I'm going to turn this one on. Beeps. I should, wait, no, here we go. So we see it connects. So even if the Dreamcast is just at the time and date screen, we're getting power. This is working. So right, just one more time here. I'm going to plug this in. Yeah, nothing. Connect it with USB again. Sure. Here's my long cable. Here we go. Okay. PR Fight Stick, PS3 mode. Is this button not registering? I'm having a hard time seeing this. Hold on, let me pull this over here. That could be it. Maybe I knocked some of the... I found out the problem. I knocked one of the cables loose when I was taking it apart, and it's one of the... Here, let me show y'all. Okay. So when I was taking things apart, I must have knocked that button or that cable loose right here, because that came out. And we weren't using that button at all previously, but that's one of the buttons needed to launch with Dreamcast. Cool. Very cool. All right. Try this again. Look at that. That's it. Okay. Cool. I love stuff like that. No harm, no foul. Now let's plug that back in. Oh, wait. Holding these down. Hey, question. If I had just booted it in Dreamcast mode, will it reboot in Dreamcast mode, or do I always have to hold the buttons down? Only one time. Awesome. So if I switch from this to Genesis, let's just say, then I have to switch it. But then if I go back to continue to play Eternal Champions on Genesis over and over, I don't have to hold down the buttons. Every time it boots, it's just in the last remembered mode. That one, here we go. Okay. It is not registering, though, through the controller adapter. Maybe it should be in a different mode? Try that. Nope. Try a different mode. No, we're not getting anything through here. Let me double check it's all connected properly. Yeah, Ariel, most people don't understand what goes into doing this stuff. It is really long and boring, but it's the only way to get real results. So I'm going to try it. It was in D-pad mode. I'm just going to try it in left stick mode to see if that helps, because that could just be the mapping. So I'm once again going to hold it into that. Okay, we see the TR come on. We see it's in left stick mode. Okay. Nope, not doing anything. You know, let me check the power on the Mister power adapter that I'm using, because I'm using a USB hub. Yes, TR, it's exactly what's happening. I'm trying to use it as use it through a USB hub that's at 2.1 amps, and that could be pushing it. We could need something that's more than that to be able to handle the Mister, the controller adapter, and the Fight Stick all getting power from it. So let me see. This is a... Yeah, I need my glasses again. .5 amp. Oh, that one's terrible. Oh. I'm gonna just try it with the other hub that I have that I know is a 3 amp. Nothing else is plugged in there now. If DC firmware is looking for Dreamcast protocol, then this probably isn't going to work, which stinks because that's exactly what I would need to have this lag test results done. But I mean, we could repeat this test when the other cables are released, but it's, you know, another 3 hours of my time to do that. So the official controller worked. You saw me playing it, Sonic the Hedgehog with it. I am in the, or you know what? I'm even going to unplug the Wi-Fi module from this. I just want the least amount of stuff plugged in as possible, just in case. No, and that's in stick 1 mode. I'm going to put it back in D-pad mode. No. So let me also just see if I could test. Yeah, nothing. Nope. Well, that sucks. However, let's just go into the NES core and see if we could do something with that. You never know. We don't need right, left. I'm just using my, all right. None of the buttons are registering at all, so that's not going to work. Well, shit. TR, I just did, but I'll do it again for you. Let me grab another controller, or another cable, I mean. I'm going to grab a video cable, so it's going to take a second. I have so many cables here. Oh boy, all right. I always have a VGA Dreamcast cable. What the heck is going on? Well, I think it is. One sec. One sec. 2, 1. Good old tank, ready to go. In. Dreamcast. All right, pop this out and put it into the tank. Power, wait, let me. All right, we got Dreamcast. I don't know why the Dreamcast isn't booting. I mean, we saw it on the screen and we saw the controller working. The VMU is showing open menu. So this thing seems to be working. So what I think I'm going to do then is switch over to the Mister. All right, and then I'm just going to unplug the Dreamcast controller and plug it right into the Mister. And it's not doing anything. Nope. Any other suggestions? Let me go back over this. So what I had done was I had this connected directly to the original Dreamcast. My camera over. Booted it. You saw me go through and select the time and date menu. You saw me use this to do that. So this was controlling the Dreamcast, definitely. And then I just unplugged the cable and plugged it into the USB adapter here. And this is the same USB adapter that the original controller was working on. So let me just double check the original controller on both one more time. And any other suggestions you have, I could try. All right, so this is the original Dreamcast controller through that controller adapter, definitely working. No doubt. Mister's just recognizing it as a controller. That's it. The analog stick is working, D-pad is working, and all of the buttons are working as well. So Mister is absolutely recognizing this properly. So let me unplug this Dreamcast controller. I'm plugging in the Octopus again. It's currently booting. Nothing. Not working at all. Let me try it again using the way you suggested. I'm gonna plug back in the Tink. All right, Dreamcast off. All right, so it's I don't know why my Dreamcast is no longer booting like this. I'm sure it's just something I'm doing wrong or the cable I'm using, but it's booted. It says, let me actually let me bring it back to this view so you could see it. I have not touched the controller since booting, but it says open menu now, which is the menu system I've used for this. So without touching any buttons, I'm now just going to move this over to Mister, and it's rebooting, but it still shows that one. No, nothing. And yeah, okay. So there's no way I'd be able to do the latency test without that. I'd offer to ship you the controller adapter to try, but I think it's going to be more expensive than just buying it, to be honest. Yeah, just message me right on Discord. I'm watching. All right, let me get this zoomed in here so that you can see it a little bit. All right, let me reposition it so we can see the stick better, and so that I could try to figure out manual. Okay, so that does say player 2. So maybe yeah, so that could be it, I guess. So how could I get that out of player 2 mode? Geez, I hope that's all this is. P1 port, but this is the only port I have. This is a single port for this. So let me power off the Dreamcast again, power it back on, and booting in the Dreamcast. It says P1. I'm unplugging, putting it into the Mister. Now it says P2 and plugged into the Mister. There are, as far as I could tell, no switches or anything on here on this adapter to delegate between one or the other. And let me just plug it into the Dreamcast again. I'm plugging it into player 4 or port 4. It shows that properly. Okay. So it thinks that it's in the player 2 port when it's in the Mister. Is that bad though? Why would it work any different? I mean, even if it wasn't player 2 port, why would it be any different at all? Neo, good call. Let me try that. Unplugging the keyboard. I'm even going to repower this up in Dreamcast mode. No, that is a good call though. That must be hard coded into the adapter. Let me full power cycle, right? We'll just give this a minute to do its thing. That was a really good idea, Neo, but unfortunately, no. The only things connected to the Mister right now are HDMI, power, and this. I could just try a different USB port on the Mister. I mean, what the hell? It's not going to hurt. Finally back. I just had like a full system thing where like first my PC disconnected and then my mic is off, but yeah. No, I'm not chatting. I'm doing all my chatting here. So look, we are connected via a USB cable directly into the Mister like we did before. Now let me unplug this and let me plug in the Dreamcast controller adapter. And I'll hold down just 3P like you asked for. Nothing? What the hell's going on now? Okay, so that's not going to work then. You'd have to hold down those two. Let's just try this one last time, and then I'm over define joystick. No, not working. The only thing I'm just confused about is, let's just say that this controller adapter is assigning, or is just sending a signal to the Dreamcast controller saying it's connected as player 2. Why would this not work then? Because this works as a player 2 controller. Or maybe it's not that easy to answer. Maybe it has nothing to do with port 1 or port 2. Maybe it is it's just about the code on both the adapter and the fight stick trying to make it trying to communicate with each other or something. I don't really know, but well, Neo, just to be clear again, I just plugged this thing into a USB hub, and it said the same thing. So I took, here's the TR Fight Stick cable going into this controller adapter, and I just plugged this into nothing but a USB power port, which is right here. So what you're seeing now is no signal. It is only power, and you still see P2. So that means it's got to be the adapter itself doing this. So there's still some available from that eBay link if you're curious, and that way you'd be able to pick one up for testing. But unfortunately, I can't test any of those modules without it working. So anything that connects from this one, so NES and SNES, I could also test. So if you send me those cables, I could use the other controller adapters that I have and hope that those work as well. And yeah, that should be it. But I won't be able to test the Dreamcast latency until I do this. And I think that's pretty important because I think there'd be a lot of people that really want to use this for the built-in VMU on their Dreamcast. So I think we did a good job for today. I think we went as far as we could go, and I think as a USB fight stick, this thing's awesome. I also love all the other features, but we can't say definitively one way or the other until we get the latency testing done, which I'd be glad to do when we get the other cables in. So maybe pick one of these up and give it a try. One of the USB controller adapters up. Give that a try. Send me the other ones, and we will do a follow-up stream at some point. And we already have the raw data for Dreamcast, so that's good. That means we're not going to have to redo that whole thing again just to get the Dreamcast lag test results. And I think it is my opinion. Maybe people in the chat might chime in on this one, but I think it's my opinion that if you have to create a custom firmware just to do this lag test, I don't think that's a problem because you're still worrying about, or we're still going through the same board that's in here to do the conversion. So if we had to do something custom just to test latency, I don't think that would be a problem, but we'll see. I'm going to put this other controller away, and I will wait. If anybody has any other thoughts or anything, I'm basically just going to straighten up a little bit now. If anybody has any other thoughts or things they want me to lag test, we're already 3 hours in, so I'm not going to start anything new. I'm not going to go into like functionality testing or anything. We're still, I think that would deserve its own stream anyway, to be honest with you. All right. No, that's impossible. I mean, we could try testing it with the game Padlet. I mean, yeah, why don't we try that? Why don't we try plugging it into a PC and seeing if that works? And if it does, we could use game Padlet to test. And the latency results are not going to be fully accurate, but they're not going to be way off. It's not going to be like a frame off. It would be a couple of milliseconds off. So we could try that. Let me get this straightened up a bit so I have the room to do that. But that would be the last thing I could try, and that still wouldn't be the best. Like, I would have to say an approximate latency if I published that, because when you're using game Padlet, just to be clear, this is not, I'm not shitting on the team that does that. I think that that's absolutely awesome. But when you're using their stuff, you're going through Windows, so you're also just basically a victim of their latency as well. So that's going to be an issue. But let's give this thing a try. Where's that controller adapter? All right. I'm going to plug this in. Connect this. I'm going to go directly into a port on my computer. Still showing player 2 for not surprising at all. Showing up as Dreamcast USB 2.1. Over, and I don't see any of the buttons working. Let me bring it closer so I can actually see. No, so it's the adapter then. Yeah. All right. Well, I mean that was a good idea, but no. Okay, so no luck on that. I'll put the adapter back. You know, no, I already. Never mind. I was gonna test something else that I already just tested. So. Well, I think, yeah, one more thing. Sure. Press the VMU button and hold it and put the USB cable in. Do you want me to do that to a PC? Let me do that through a PC so that we could see it on the computer first, because it's obviously showing the same things. Press Press the VMU button and hold it and put the USB cable. Okay, so press the VMU button right here, put in the cable. Letting go. Yeah, let me try this again. Yeah, didn't do anything. Oh, USB, gotcha. Okay. Plug in that. Hold the VMU button, plug in USB. Still holding the VMU button. Let go. Was that what you had meant? Still no buttons happening on screen, no button presses. PC should see it as a VMU. Well, let me do this. Anything you want me to do with this tool? Okay. So you want me to give one more try with the Dreamcast adapter just to see, or is this all we're at? Okay. Well, I am going to bolt this thing back together, I think. And we could always resume this at a future date when we figure out whatever else we're going to need for it. And of course, when the other cables come, then I'd be able to do that with the other adapters I already own. It's got to work with some of them. Neo Geo and Genesis should just be 0 latency, but that's obviously something to test anyway. And besides, when we're doing these testing, seeing zeros is always a good thing. Always, always a good thing. It's the only Dreamcast converter I have, but I also have Genesis, NES, and SNES, which are the Damon Byte adapters from MacGyver. And those are the ones that I use to have USB controllers on Mister. And for those, it's the exact same process as this. You take an original controller, you run a baseline test, which I've done that a million times, and it's always like 1-ish milliseconds. And then after that, then you run this through this controller, and then you see the difference. So it should just work fine. Yeah, all right. Well, I think that's basically everything, right? So I'm going to call it for this time. Let me put the back on. And then that's it. I'll close up shop. But hey, after all that effort, we still learned that this is very low latency through USB. So this was time well spent. I have these on. I'm only going to access it from the bottom from now on. All of these cables are plugged in. Don't drop it. Okay. One solid ass fight stick. Ready to go. Neo, you nailed it. The stick works perfectly on a Dreamcast. What it does not currently work on is through the RAFnet Dreamcast to USB adapter, which you would never ever use on a Mister or on basically anything, because this already has USB built in. So what I'm trying to do is absolutely useless in every single scenario except the lag testing that we're trying to do. So from a functionality standpoint, this means nothing for the fight stick, which is a good thing. It's, positive. There's nothing negative about that. The only thing that this matters for is this exact lag testing scenario. I am almost done cleaning up here, so any other questions about this or anything anybody wants me to clarify, please let me know. I definitely want to make sure I get the info right on this, but there's no complaints on this. Everything's working great. So. Yeah, message RAFnet. I believe I've messaged him a few times over the years and never got a response. But I mean, that doesn't really mean anything. That was first time I messaged him was over a decade ago, and then the second time was probably like 8 years ago. So my bad. I'm sure it's just the wrong place, wrong time, or something. So, all right. Yes. All right. Well, I think that's everything. Thank you to everybody who sat through this and was patient. And I know I always try to be honest that these lag test streams aren't the most exciting, but I always learn a lot. I always have a lot of fun hanging out with people in the chat. So thank you for everybody who just takes the time to hang out with me in these. And we will absolutely, without a doubt, figure out how to come back to this and continue to lag test this thing. Because I guess this is what I'll end on here. This controller, yeah, it has the USB port. Awesome. That's going to be what most people probably end up using. But it also has this Neo Geo port, which is, if it's the same as the other Brook connectors, that's 0.0 milliseconds of latency, because it's just passing the buttons over to this. But it's nice to verify. And then this adapter where I want to test Nintendo, Super Nintendo, Genesis, whatever I can, to make sure that that's working. And hopefully it'll be a little less finicky because it's not going through any kind of protocols like Dreamcast. So awesome. Well, thank you everybody, and I'll see you.